Hi, wouldn't we all agree that the real inhabitants, the real owners, if at all, of this planet are the trees? Look at their lifespans and look at ours. All motile animals, they, in comparison to trees, we have real low lifespans because we end up spending most of our energies in moving from one place to another in locomotion. The slower an animal is, longer it lives, just like tortoise. And faster you breathe, more unrelaxed you are, faster you move, like the rabbit. It has a real low lifespan. So all those ancient seers, they said, relax yourself, relax to the point where you feel that locomotion is not needed until it is all the unnecessary locomotion, unnecessary movement could be curtailed. Now, the real reason of this particular video was again making some comparison, because not just the trees live n times longer than the motile organisms, they are quite abundant. And when you see some successful model already in place, you can take cues in how they operate. There are some illustrations like always, and I hope I'm able to draw the point home. All right, here it is. Not that you know about it already, but then just for a quick recap, this is the root, and these are the offshoots of the root, and this is the soil, and this is the trunk, and these are where most of the leaves, most of the canopy is in a tree. Now if you're to, it is a complete system. It is a complete system, just like an organization or a company or a business unit. So you can draw parallels, you can draw comparisons, you can make comparisons. This is the taproot, the main root. This is where the initiation happens. This is where the idea germinates. So this is the leadership. So these offshoots of roots that are basically mechanisms of the tree to increase their surface area so that it can absorb more and more water from the soil, more and more water and nutrients. So this is a mechanism to obtain credit. So this is the finance department. Then this is where the real process begins. This is where your business starts seeing the light. Until here, things are such that people or the larger population or the consumers don't know what exactly is going on. Once it comes out of the soil, it is actually a shoot. And all of us who've studied even middle class level botany, we would know that this is the vascular tissue of the tree or the plant, where things are, and when I say things, I mean where water and nutrients are sent up to the leaves so that photosynthesis can take place. All right, so this is composed of xylem and phloem. These are vascular tissues. All right, so xylem, which is a stronger tissue because it's working against the gravity to carry nutrients and water towards the leaves. This is your operation department. It has to be very taut. It has to have a plan that doesn't allow leakage. It has to have a plan so that it is thick and there are not attacks of the pest and the insects. This is what is operation department could be seen as. And then there are branches. Branches is expansion of your business. So how does expansion happen? Expansion happens through sales. So this is your sales department. This canopy, this bunch of leaves, in totality, could be, if we see it from drone, this complete canopy from up here, it is the marketing department, because it is the one that is most exposed to the sunlight, and it is most instrumental in absorbing carbon dioxide. This, where actual photosynthesis is taking place, is the production department. There can be businesses on a smaller level or a smaller scale that may not have marketing because their scale is lesser. So for small scale, there has to be sales. Nevertheless, operation and sales are imperative once you have your assets, because what was sent up on the trunk and eventually to the canopy of leaves where photosynthesis took place was water and nutrient, liquid, and the smallest bit of solid. Nutrient is the smallest bit of solid. So when it came in contact with a warming gas, it turned into asset. So liquidity has to be turned into asset. That is the core of any system. Make more from less, make solid out of liquid. So when water and nutrient reaches there and in the leaves, and there is carbon dioxide exposure, so chloroplast, there is a proper formula for it, but let's not get too technical. The warming gas evaporates the water in form of transpiration, and what you're left with, semi liquidish, jellyish starch, sugar, and that's the asset for the tree. Whatever food that is made through phloem or HR department, distribution of asset takes place. Even though it is in many business systems, that distribution is not fair, nor it is equitable, and that's why when it is not equitable, the system becomes faulty. Not with the nature's system, not with the tree. It's always perfect. Now let's take example of extreme situations when water is very less. Let's take examples, two examples where the root is not able to get water. So what happens in desert regions, especially there are examples of such trees in Africa, where the taproot, that is your main root, the leader, has to reach to the very bottom, almost 80 feet below the ground, to get some underground water. So one that is here near the surface are your usual credit finance companies that you take credit from. So how I see this is a completely subjective idea, subjective view. So the way I see it, when you don't get credit, when you don't get finance for your business at a top level, you have to reach to the private lenders that are operating much below and away from the public view, public scan, and get your credit or finance from there. Now, it has been proven that all countries have a certain percentage of unorganized sector, the one that isn't completely following the rules of the government, or not. They are the ones that are not the taxpayers, or they don't pay tax completely. They prefer going to the private lenders because there are few reasons for that. A, the time taken to get your finance is quite less, so it's handy. Plus, there is no collateral required in most of the cases, which is quite a a difficult thing for people to arrange when they're getting into startups. So private lenders, more often than not, they don't take collateral. Then the documental proofs that are required in public finance companies, they might not be available with the owner of a new startup, or they might not be having time. They might be finding it all complicated. So and of course there is high transaction cost with your authorized finance companies. So all these points, they lead to people reaching out to private lenders. Now, how there is an opportunity in every crisis, how can the authorities see an opportunity in such a situation? Do away with the transaction cost, simplify the loan taking process so that it's not complicated to even to whoever visits the finance company or bank. And then collateral, all the collateral, the rules regarding the collateral should be eased, because in a developing country, in an emerging country, and sometimes in developed countries, though less in developed countries, chances of a startup making it or being successful is rather less. So with time, about 80%, within 10 years span, about 80% of small scale units or startups, they get wiped out, especially if they are not operating in service sector. If they are into production, they get wiped out. So this is what this particular example could teach us. And then you have your trees that live very long, but they have shallow roots. That is, they are almost outside the soil rather than inside. But the best thing about these things, what does it tell you? If we were to there are, of course, I was saying, let me complete my sentence, there are certain quite good things attached to this mechanism that the tree has evolved for itself. Here again, you have such trees. This is the root part. You have such trees where you have roots quite shallow. That is, they are half inside the soil, half outside. What does it tell you? When there is no liquidity, because such trees are usually there where the rainfall is less, in where drought conditions are prevalent. So here the tree augments or secures finance for itself from, if it's a big company, IPO. But let's not even go there. Let's just keep our view quite narrowed down on startups. So what they could do, and sometimes this practice is actually on, is that they can actually secure or obtain finance from the public. Just like initial public borrowing, there should be, not in India, I have not seen that or heard of it, even the small scale sector should have public offerings. So in what happens, if you go in a structured way, they would ask for people who invest in your company, they ask for certain shares in the pocket, in the profit, or sometimes what's better for very small scale units is that instead of shares, you can give a part of instead of maybe interest, regular interest, you could also give them a part of your profit. Or there is another way which I have thought about. I did not read it anywhere. There should be just like a mela or a fair. There should be a fair organized on an auction in an auction like way, where small investors congregate and they choose the small scale unit of their choice to invest their excess money into, whatever be the amount, and however they want to be repaid, through interest or through a part in the profit. uh, yeah, so this is how you augment resources for yourself, liquid resources for yourself. The other thing I thought was, you may have heard about angel investors, where I spoke about it uh, in one of my videos. What happens when a person has excess, not excess, some cash, some liquidity to dispense with, as a person, as a lender who's not very greedy, he would give away that cash to somebody, and that's that. That's where this thing ends. But what I thought was, this thing could be a chain reaction. So if somebody gives you cash to start up your startup, and if when you come into the zone of break even, and then you eventually start making profits, you can give you can invest in somebody else's startup. So if somebody gave you one individual gave you some money, you invest in two different startups, and each one of those people will invest into other startups. So this is something that I thought about when I saw these routes that take money from all very small level investors, let them have share in your company, pay them as interest, or pay them as a part of your profit. Yeah, that's it. So this is one part of it. Another part of it is, now I found this very interesting. You know which is the tallest which is the tallest tree in the world? It is coast redwood. It is very, very tall. And it has been found that the roots of this particular tree, they are also quite shallow, but they are extensively spread out. They go very far. They are very far from the tree. So what happens? And now another thing, they are intertwined. One tree's roots would be intertwined with another tree's roots in such a way that they almost seem like roots of one tree. So could you get the cues? I guess people who are here, in case they are there, they will know what I'm talking about. It's better to arrange for your finance from small investors, pretty much going on the route that I just spoke about. And then, because you have your shallow roots, that is, they are out. So if you're not able to augment resources through bank or finance companies, take money from people who believe in your idea, who believe in the strategy, who believe in your planning, who believe in the total system. And then, this is not the end of it. To be tallest, you have to be the strongest. So all the private players should have some kind of a collusion. They should stand together. Not like some of the examples that I gave in another of my videos, uh, where private sectors are just not having enough space to operate, enough resources to operate, because there is a giant tree, giantest of all trees, the government, that just doesn't allow. They just twist and turn the policies and the rules and the regulation, and they stay in the business somehow by hook or crook. They even though face losses, but they level it up, the soil, uh, through taxes, small little rivulets that they catch in form of taxes from people, from the shrubs and the plants and the small trees. So there has to be greater level of collusion. So if be it if it is telecom, or if it is yeah, it is, if it is telecom or power sector or any sector, there has to be greater bonhomie between one player uh, with the other private player. They should stand for each other. They should compete, but the competition should be on the basis of quality, not by just funding the government and having your way and letting other people be derooted. So that's not how the country progresses. And if the country doesn't progress, you will, if you are unfair player, you will not benefit, because you're not going to get proportional revenues. An underdeveloped, emerging or slash developing economy can never provide you enough revenues. So if you're thinking of diversifying into foreign markets, it's so unpredictable that someday when you want to bank upon your own country for revenues, you're not going to get it, because you cut the tap root. Okay, so this is one cue, one takeaway from the tallest tree in the world, that's coast redwood, that make small investors believe in your project and most ardently work towards making their expectations come true. And there should be a collusion, there should be some kind of a there should not be any antipathy between private players, so that they are stronger. They are not swayed away or dried up by the big tree. Then, the thickest tree is the oldest tree. There are certain trees that are thousands of years old. I guess I'm right when I say thousands. Yeah. So, these are the trees that are known as bristlecone pine. Now, what's so special about them? Again, they also have shallow roots. So now you found out. What these shallow trees do, they have, everyone has a stake in them. So when they fail, they are not allowed to fail, because so many people are backing them up through their small little buckets of investment. It's not that when they fail they are the only ones who are wiped out or damaged or finished. So it's when there is a team, there are better chances of working, better chances of success. What it does, this bristlecone pine tree, it is very slow in growing. Its growth is very slow, so it doesn't grow very tall for many years, because the growth rate is slow. What the metabolic energy is spent into is expansion, not growth. So talking of business, what's expansion, what is growth? Growth is when you increase the scale of your business. You have made from tiny industry, you've made it into a small industry, from small to middle and medium scale industry, from medium scale to a large scale industry. Okay. And second, value. The value of your product has increased, the size has increased. So this is growth. Expansion is simple. Expansion is just increasing your consumer base. So example is Kingfisher Airlines. So there was a lot of liquidity that was pumped in. Again, I'll give this example elsewhere. But when you build on your consumer base, especially when there isn't a steady source of finance, that's a better idea. All right, the third one is the fastest growing tree, which is the willow trees, all willow trees. What's with them? They need a lot of water. So all the water and the nutrients are fast consumed into increasing the height. They almost grow 6 to 8 feet in a year's time. Second is they have skinny trunk. They have skinny trunk. So obviously it's not very thick. And obviously it is attacked by pest and insect, and this is how the fastest growing tree dies the youngest. So when there's too much liquidity and the vascular tissue, that is the operational department, and your basically operation department is not perfect, and you get in the tree gets fungus, bacteria, what they do, they stop nutrients and water to go to where photosynthesis is taking place. The whole root is blocked and it dies. This particular tree dies. Pretty much the case with fruit trees. So relatively they die young. In 20-30 years they're gone, which is not the case with most of the trees. So the idea is, when you try to grow very soon, very much, very soon, there might be leakages in your coordination. So what have I written? Make sure too much liquidity doesn't facilitate pathogens. There shouldn't be any leakage in the system. So here I would like to give the example of Kingfisher Airlines that had started off very well at a high scale, but there were certain functional or structural problems that crept in, and very soon this whole company folded up. It was a case of a willow tree, fastest growing and dying young. So this is pretty much it. This is pretty much what I wanted to talk about. So if you see the same comparison, and if you have that in the business world and the trees, and if you have the same kind of an intrigue that I have with flora, it's going to be good. All right, bye.